Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is how to get on a winning streak in your marriage and move beyond a hard season.
You know, we talk to couples all day, every day, and we can tell right now the mood is we need some wins, right? Like, we know that so many couples, maybe you included, have felt like you've been in it. You've been in a difficult season, whether that is because of life circumstances that you've been facing together and also patterns and challenges and habits within your relationship. And you get to this point where maybe you've been talking about it so much, trying to work on it. For some of you, really, if you're honest, you just started to recently work on it, trying to get healthy tools and skills, but yet you feel exhausted. And you are like, can I tap out? So this episode, we want it to be encouraging for you. We want it to have you feel like there is the possibility of just like some more joy and connection and fulfillment together. And we're going to give you some strategies for that.
And this whole thing made me think of the movie Moneyball.
It's a great movie.
With Brad Pitt. And so, you know, they were taking a whole different approach to baseball. They were getting these players not for the name or even their stats. Well, it was a combination of just the getting on base and like sort of buying runs. And they go through a point at which they're on a losing streak. And it's just because the pieces haven't fallen into place. If I'm recalling the movie correctly, in that period of time, it was that they kept on putting Jeremy Giambi in at first, and they needed Hatterfield, I think his name was, to be at first because of what he brought to like on-base percentage and all that stuff. So they keep on fighting against each other, and like the manager just won't do it. But when they do, they get on this winning streak of like 30 games or something like that. And maybe it's the most even today that have ever happened, winning streak. And that's where we want to go today, right? There's some things that need to click into place, but when they do, you start to get these wins and you start to put the wins together and like the momentum builds and you just turn 10 wins into 15 to 20 to 30. And then all of a sudden you're in this place much faster than you even thought. Like, wow, we were in a hard season, but we got on this winning streak and look where we are.
I want to elaborate on that word that you glazed over pretty quickly, which is so important, momentum. We describe this a lot to couples, is that when it feels like you've been in that hard season, you've been on a losing streak, the patterns keep happening, you're so frustrated together, you have momentum going in the negative direction, obviously, just to put it simply, right? But momentum can happen the other way too. And with the steps and the strategies we're going to go into here in a couple minutes, you will get positive momentum. And it's like when, I just think this visual helps me, when you see a train starting, which I know some of us don't see a train that often, but watch a video on YouTube. It's really slow at first. Like it really even takes a lot of effort and steam and power. But then it really gets going, the train, and it goes faster and faster. And then there's just momentum. It doesn't take as much effort. It doesn't feel as hard to keep that momentum going. And so just remember that even if it feels like you're in that cycle of negative momentum, you can utilize momentum for the positive. And that's what we're going to give you today so that you can get a winning streak of positive momentum.
This makes you think of a lot of things. The physics principle would be overcoming inertia, and it doesn't take as much force to keep an object moving after it's already gotten started. But that's not what we're talking about here today. So a couple of things to really notice, and this comes from social psychology. So 2 terms really quick: mood congruence effects. It's this principle that we'll keep it simple, positive mood, negative mood. When you're in a negative mood, your brain will focus more on negative traits of others. In this case, it's going to be your partner. So you tend to filter information that then gets stored in your memory, which is called encoding. So we encode and we store memory more related to the mood that we're in. We see those traits in others. Then when it comes to recalling that memory, then it's mood dependent memory actually. So you will retrieve information that got stored based on your mood. So when you're in a positive mood, you retrieve information that's more positive. And when you're in a negative mood, you retrieve information that's more negative, or memories, if you will.
Yes.
So in terms of a losing streak and momentum, if you're really if your mood is very negative, your brain is going to bring more of the memories that were negative, more of the traits of your partner that you are recalling as negative. And we got to turn that tide, because in the opposite, the more you're in a better mood, a positive mood, then you're going to recall and retrieve more positive memory.
Yep.
And then we add to that, we can really get momentum going.
Well, and that's why, our approach to when you're really trying to work on things in the relationship, really get the breakthroughs, is that it is twofold. It is repairing, meaning we need to address the things that are unresolved, the things that have been affecting each other. We haven't really repaired it, but at the same time, rebuilding, which to us is about the positive changes we're going to create. We want to show each other how good it can be. And those two happening simultaneously makes it so that you're not only focusing on the negative. That's what can happen sometimes when couples are quote unquote working on things. They're expressing more, they're having the conversations, but it can almost take a turn towards, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed with my partner telling me all these things I'm not doing well. And then, that does turn the mood.
Yeah,
you get
the
more
mood congruent effects. You're going to start recalling more of negative things.
Exactly. And so it's pairing those kind of conversations, addressing the real stuff, with also filling each other's love accounts, which we'll go to later on further. But it's that you can show each other the good too, that you can focus on appreciation and love. And again, just showing each other how good it can be. And so remember that when you are working on things. It can't be all negative, can't be all hard, it can't be all, oh my gosh, here's what you need to work on. It needs to be paired with the positive. And so as we go into these steps, we aren't going to focus on the repair in this episode. Okay, we've done a ton of those. Listen to some of our recent episodes. If you scroll back just a few, you'll see we address repair a lot. And so listen to that. In this episode, we also aren't going to address resolving underlying issues, because again, we've covered that. You can listen to our Steps to Rebuild a Marriage episode recently, and that's also covered in our Steps to Rebuild a Marriage guide, which we truly recommend everyone do. Everyone do before the end of the year, towards the beginning of the year. It's just a must to be able to address those underlying issues. But that isn't what this episode is about. This is about gaining that positive momentum as you do that important repair work as well. So with that said, the first place to start to get a winning streak going is you have to address your time. Okay, what distractions do you need to delete or make modifications to, because they are taking all your time for all work and no play, right? Of course, it can feel like, man, life is just not even that fun when you aren't actually making time for enjoyment and fulfillment together. And we see that so many couples that are similar to us, you're adulting, you got all the responsibilities, is that your time is filled with so much management and to-dos. And yes, that is a big part of the season that many of us are in, especially if you've started a family. But also, what changes could you make to your time in order to prioritize more fulfillment together, more fun, doing those things that you used to do, laughing together and enjoying, and that had you feel companionship and connection together. Experiences were a lot of what brought you together, right? But yet we often get in a rut with our habits and what we're doing with our time. Now, this also can be changes that you need to make to your lifestyle. We were talking to a couple earlier today where maybe they're not going to make a giant change to their careers specifically, but maybe there are some modifications to make because they were pulled in so many directions, both of them working so hard, and then everything with the kids on top of it. Maybe there's some changes to actually make to your lifestyle. Maybe there's help that you need to get from people to take on some of the burden or some of the to-dos so that you have time for fun, for connection, for fulfillment. But also, here's the other part of time for self-care. Are you taking care of yourself? Because how do we show up as the best partner we can be when we are empty? we aren't taking care of ourselves, whether that's physically taking care of ourselves. We've been really focusing on getting our workouts in at least 3-4 days a week, which are so easy to deprioritize. I've been focusing more on things that make me feel relaxed, in skincare, which I know is such a female thing to be focused on, right? But taking care of my skin and getting a facial and seeing girlfriends from time to time for coffee, that self-care so that my heart, my soul is feeling fulfilled. When I'm in that place, I can show up so much better for Erin, for our daughter. What would you add to the time factor?
I think that's covering it because it's a good transition into the second point being attitude. Mm-hmm. And I think to your point about being low on your own self-care, pursuing things that are meaningful to you, of interest to you, then you're going to wake up thinking, well, here's another day where I don't get to do those things. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to be overwhelmed and drained. And it really is about, checking yourself, checking your attitude at the door, and the door being when you wake up. You have this opportunity when you go to sleep where, you move into the unconscious mind. So you actually do release all of the stresses, the overwhelm, the unrepair, the argument hangover. It's like you let that all go. Mm-hmm. And when you wake up, it happens fast for some people, but you have a choice. You could not pick that back up or you don't want to pick up where you left off. And there is that opportunity. You wake up, provided you got a good night's rest or good enough, right? Probably 6.5 hours at least.
Hopefully, yeah.
Ours is mine's 7.5. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't need the 8. Mm-hmm. But then it's, am I intentional with my mindset to focus on something that's going to have me show up in a more positive attitude?
Yes.
And am I going to pick up and just think of the worst of my partner and where they dismiss me and where I'm upset with them and where they haven't repaired with me?
Or read negative news, doom and gloom things, like you start your day with how the world is falling apart. What input what are you exposing yourself to in the morning? And
sometimes I have to remember this. This came from a mentor of ours, and maybe the world is falling apart. Like society probably
feels like
is.
that at times, yes. Mm-hmm.
But am I going to focus on the general, like conceptual world, or am I going to create my own ecosystem?
Yes.
It's like sometimes we remind each other, like, well, there are certain things in life that we are out to have an impact on. There are some that's not what we're here to do necessarily, and probably some other people are out here to impact that. And we may need to remind ourselves, like, hey, what's our ecosystem? Mm-hmm. And let's just focus on the influence we can have on our own ecosystem.
So what is your attitude when you wake up throughout the day, when you are ending the day? Those are such crucial times as well. How you start your day, how you end your day are so important, especially for you as a couple, for your family. What environment are you creating? So think about just even the small things that can completely change the environment. You can wake up and it can be pure chaos. If you have kids, a lot of people just feel like, oh my gosh, the mornings are just chaos and it's stressful and we're bickering with each other and we're, directing each other things to do and it's not fun. Okay, switch it up. Put on some nice music and do some fun activity as a family before it's just go, 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 go. Maybe that means you need to wake up a little bit earlier so that you have a few minutes to gather yourself. That's why I'm so grateful that we have formed the habit of waking up before our daughter. We get an hour lately. Thankfully, she's been sleeping in a little bit. We've been getting like 2 hours before she wakes up, but we're up at 5. Latest. Sometimes it's 4:30. I know that might sound extreme for a lot of you, but the point is, however much time, maybe you need a little you time to gather yourself, to wake up, to listen to something or read something positive so that you do show up for yourself, your family, your partner with a great attitude. Attitude has such an influence on the environment, and people change based on the environment that they're in. So you and your partner become better versions of yourselves when the environment calls for it, as opposed to, the opposite, not calling for the best of you. So an attitude being huge for the winning streak.
And the next one is to fill your love account a little bit more, right? Can you get it to Well, depending on where you're at, can you bump it up 2? Maybe you felt like in this hard season you're at a 4. So can you get to a 5 and then a 6? Could you get to a 7, an 8, a 9?
Right. So wherever you land, we want it to be increased. And you probably have heard us say the love account a lot on our podcast, on our posts, and that's because it's so easily forgotten. Seriously, something that makes so much sense to you all, because we hear that all the time. The love account, it just makes sense. It simplifies things. But yet, are you focusing on that on a daily basis? Because again, when couples are in the grind, they're adulting, they just so quickly, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, it's withdrawal, 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 withdrawal. Oh, wait, our love accounts are super low. We need to focus on deposits. No, every single day, make it a focus of yours to make deposits into your partner's account. And they don't need to be giant things. We're not asking you to every single night lay out rose petals and have romantic music playing for an elaborate dinner. That might not be sustainable for everyone, depending on the circumstances. It really is all the small things. And so 2 great questions you can ask your partner. Maybe you haven't asked this in a long time, or it's been a while. Maybe you've never asked it, is what are the biggest withdrawals? Maybe give me 2 or 3 that I can reduce. What are the 2 or 3 biggest withdrawals from your love account that I can reduce? And then the opposite being, what are 2 or 3 deposits that make the biggest difference for you? Checking in on that is such a great way to be able to know what makes the biggest difference for your partner. And that's why even in our weekly family meeting, which that's another guide we have, one of the questions is about checking in on the love account, because it's so easy to lose sight of it. And no matter how busy you are, I promise you can focus on the love account. You're having interactions with your partner. You're sending text messages to them throughout the day, potentially. You see each other a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night. So you are having interactions. Are they full of withdrawals from each other or little deposits? Make sure that balance is in your favor for
Net
this
positive.
winning streak. Exactly.
And then with the Filling the Love account, I invite anyone that's trying to get on a winning streak to take on some silent tolerance. And that is to not take your partner's responses personally. And if something, happens, just offer more grace 3 times. If something happens, just don't say anything about it. Let it go. If it happens a second time, just notice it. Okay, all right. 3rd time, then you react. No, just kidding.
No.
The 3rd time, it's okay, this is something I need to bring up in maybe our family meeting. It's certainly going to be something that you need to bring up at a particular time. Like, hey, there's a conversation I want to have about a certain pattern or withdrawal or a need that I notice, and then have that conversation then. Otherwise, you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to react to it in the moment. You don't need to bring it up. So again, we're not talking about now just being silent as a partner, and you don't get to ever express or ever ask for anything that your partner does to be different. But we've covered all that. This is about a winning streak. So silent tolerance, and just notice and make note. And then if you need to share something, that's a particular conversation to have.
Family meeting. Do it in the family
meeting.
meeting.
And I think you can still have that be a part of your winning streak. It's like, wow, thanks for not reacting all those 3 times. And now you're bringing it to me in a very assertive, proactive way to just keep the winning streak going. And it could be something you appreciate.
I just want to say something before going to the next point. It's so good that you said that, because when we have that discernment and that ability to just observe and not have to bring up every little, there's an error of yours. The Freemans talked about that. Don't do that. Right. Then it can feel like every day there's something you bring to me that I'm not doing right.
Oh, yeah.
And again, that's that negative momentum where it does just feel like, man, when are the good days? When are the days where I don't get some of that feedback? So that discernment and being able to let there be a couple times before you bring everything up.
And then you want to close us out with this last point about I like this point you brought up. So I'm going to ask it in a form of a question.
Yeah.
How can you, I'll put it over to you, how can you help create a win for me?
creating wins. So that's a great way, right? Are you setting your partner up for failure or for success? And so I think a few things come to mind. Number one is, what are the ways that you can win together? So are you pursuing something together? One of the best ways to feel a sense of progress as a couple is to be pursuing something together, a goal, something that you care about. It could be a form of service that you've wanted to get involved with, right? So when I think about goals, the obvious ones a lot of times people think of would be like health goals, which is always a great way to feel a sense of progress. There's actually so many studies that say that when people make progress in their health, it has a positive effect in every other area of the life. So you could set a health goal together. You could set a financial goal together. You could want to start a business. You could set a goal to go on a certain trip together. So those are goal-oriented.
Just made me think of something.
Sure.
Those are bigger things. Maybe you're able to do that. But setting your partner up so they can get a win for a goal important to them. I could have done this today, and I didn't.
Okay.
Oh, you did make it to the gym, actually. Okay. So for some reason, I thought you didn't. But either way, yesterday, I know you didn't, and you wanted to. So knowing that that was an important thing for you, I could have done all I could to get Sky dressed and her lunch together and then off to school. And what if I had even laid out your workout clothes on the bed and like got your specific workout shoes, by the door, filled up a water thing. And the last thing I was thinking of, we go to this clubhouse that has a gym in our neighborhood. I could have got the key card out and the garage door opener and got it in your bike basket and just had everything set up.
That would make me feel set up.
How would you have not gone to the gym? And then by going, it would have created a win for you.
I love that idea. And I would have loved to see what outfit you would pick out for me. That would be especially hilarious. But the point is, because that's a great example, but what are some wins that you could help set up for your partner? Does your partner actually need to focus more on a hobby that makes them a more fulfilled person? But again, I think you can do it both ways. You can have something you're pursuing together. You both feel a sense of winning and progress in your life as a whole, and also setting each other up for wins. And don't underestimate the power of just switching up your habits and routine to feel some wins. When you just watch TV every night, which believe us, we love a good show and a movie, we're guilty too. But if you really feel a sense of like kind of stagnation or lack of progress, switch up your habits together, do something different, play a board game together, read, go on a walk if you can, pick up an evening hobby, something that is getting you a little bit more active with each other as opposed to in that passive role of watching TV.
And then just know that you will have to overcome inertia. But remember, even physics tells us that once an object is in motion, it's easier to keep it in motion.
Yes.
So however sort of difficult it feels to change that habit, to not just watch TV, it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to, sit outside with hot chocolate or read or pot, whatever. It's not going to feel the same or as difficult as probably the very first 1 or 2 times.
Yes, it's true. So all of these are steps and strategies to get on a winning streak. Make sure you may want to listen to this again and really extract 1, 2, 3 things that you're going to actually do, because it's not the listening to the podcast that makes the difference, is that you take something from it and you get into action together. That's going to be what gets you on a winning streak. And to support that, we have couples every day reach out to us. We're so grateful how many of you want to work with us privately for sessions. And we just are really grateful for that, but we have a long wait list for private sessions. So for those of you who want to get on this winning streak, feel a sense of progress, move beyond the hard season, the 2 best things that you could do as a combo for this is the 30-day couples challenge paired with the steps to rebuild a marriage guide, because that's going to address both. It's going to have you address the underlying issues that need to be resolved and repaired while also setting up ways to win together, fill your love account, feel a sense of progress. So that combo together can set you up for success if you do them, right? So make sure you sign up for our upcoming 30-day couples challenge that starts on the 1st of the month. and then Get the Steps to Rebuild a Marriage guide. You can see both of those linked in the show notes. That is a great way to have some structure for this because we want you to win. We want you to have that winning season. We are cheering you on. We're so grateful that you listen. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. It also makes such a difference if you give us 5 stars, if you feel we're worthy of that, on whichever platform you're listening on. But we're so grateful for you listening, and we will talk to you on the next episode.